you ever take a moment to think about the water you use at home? The water that comes through your mains to your taps and your appliances, that falls as rain on your roof, on your garden, on your driveway. The same water that goes down your plug hole, or down your toilet, or down your outside drains. And do you really understand what happens to the water after it leaves your home? Or do you simply flush and forget? So why does it matter? The River Dane and River Weaver in Northwich are typical of the lowland rivers of northwest England in failing to meet international standards for clean and healthy rivers. But there's something a bit different about our local rivers. And the difference is, most of the people in this room can do something about it. So what are the issues? Why are our rivers failing, and what can we do about it? Well, our local rivers are failing to achieve standards set out in something called the Water Framework Directive. This is quite a technical piece of EU legislation, but it's essentially about three things that matter to all of us. It's about the right quality of water, it's about having the right quantity of water, and it's about a healthy environment for both people and wildlife. And our local rivers fall short of the standards required because of the pollution that we experience in our local rivers, because of the ways they've been modified over the years for the benefit of navigation, for land drainage and flood control, and because of the spread of invasive non-native species which are widespread now in our catchment. And importantly, because of the impact this has on the natural wildlife of our rivers. It's especially worrying that both the Weaver and the Dane score exceptionally low for freshwater invertebrate populations. I think our rivers can do better than this. I think we can do better than this. And I want you to go away from here knowing how. Part of my work with Groundwork Cheshire, Lancashire and Merseyside is to run a project called Love My River Northwich. It's all about engaging the community in our local rivers through walkover surveys, which give us the chance to learn about the river environment and the issues it faces, through citizen science, which gives us a chance to test the water and really find out where that pollution is, and also projects which give us a chance to tackle pollution and flood risk. And we've got some great projects to improve local habitats too. These are floating habitats that we've installed on the River Weaver navigation alongside some of the most heavily modified riverbanks that previously didn't provide any habitat value at all. And we control invasive species. This is controlling Himalayan balsam on the River Dane, just a few yards from here. So I get to talk to lots of different people in my job as part of Love My River Northwich. And I do find that almost without exception, people are interested in what we do. And there's an appreciation of the work that we're trying to achieve. I think there's a universal connection with rivers and what they mean to us. And I think that comes from a very deep place within our psyche, rooted, I think, in our evolution as a species and how important rivers have been in our development of our civilization and society. But while this appreciation, this inherent connection is strong, I found out that for most people, there are some big gaps in their understanding about just how connected we really are to our local rivers. And when they learn a few crucial facts, those gaps start to close. The pieces of the jigsaw start to fall into place, and people are surprised. Surprised and excited. They're surprised they didn't know about these things before, and they are excited because they realise there's actually something they can do about it. I know exactly how they feel, because that's how I felt when this work led me to find out for myself. Modern wastewater treatment plants do an incredible job. They take away sewage and industrial wastewater from homes and businesses and clean it up so that the water is safe to return to the river. Amazing. They're a testament to the skill of the people who run them and the microorganisms that do most of the work. But they can only treat the wastewater that actually reaches the plant. They can't treat it if it finds its way into the river first. And there are several ways that this can happen, meaning that the connection between our homes and our river can be a lot closer and more direct than we think. And this is what most people I've spoken to don't realise. Our wastewater infrastructure dates back a long way. This is Dock Road Pumping Station, built in 1913 to pump sewage to the treatment plant at Winnington. Before this, sewers around Northwich flowed straight into the Weaver and the Dane. The pumping station made a huge difference to the health of our local rivers and continued operating for another 60 years. But by the 1970s, Northwich had a much larger population, with whole new areas having been developed. The town had outgrown its wastewater network. So a much larger pumping station was built next door, and for new developments, a new type of sewer system was introduced. This actually means we have two different sewer systems dating to different periods in our history, each with their own set of issues and problems. And unless we understand how our homes connect with these, and what happens to the wastewater we generate, we'll never know what we need to do differently if we want to stop polluting our rivers. So here's what we can all do. If you live in a home that was built before the 1970s, it's likely that you'd be connected to the older type of combined sewer system. In normal circumstances, both foul sewage and rainwater flow through the same pipes to our sewage treatment works. This has the advantage of simplicity, with only one set of drain openings. But the big disadvantage we all need to understand is that during periods of heavy rainfall, water volumes can be more than the network can cope with, causing the sewers to overflow directly into the river. This is a surface water drain and combined sewer overflow, emptying into the River Dane right outside this building. Now, with all the rain we've had in the last couple of weeks, it's quite possible that if we live in an older property, that some of the foul sewage from your home will have ended up overflowing into your nearest river. But what can you do to prevent this? Well, for combined sewer systems, the big priority is to reduce the volume of rainfall going into the sewers at peak times. We'll look at ways how we can do that in a moment. Well, what if you live in a newer property built after about 1970? Well, then it's likely that your home is connected to a separate sewer system. This has a dedicated pipe network pumping foul sewage to the treatment plant, and separate surface water drainage, which takes away the rainwater, not for treatment, but directly to a local watercourse. This reduces the risk of sewer overflows, but introduces a new hazard, that of misconnections. So unless care is taken when installing new pipework, or when extensions are added to homes or new appliances plumbed in, it's possible to connect the pipework incorrectly and channel the foul water into the surface drains and directly onto the nearest river. So the priority in separate sewer systems is for you to check and correct any misconnections and make sure any new pipework or appliances get connected correctly. Here are a couple of examples of what typical misconnections to surface water drains might look like. I wonder if they're familiar to anyone. So what else can we do at home to protect our rivers? Starting with the bathroom and the water we use there. Remember, the only things to flush down the loo are the 3 Ps: pee, poo, and paper. The biggest problem here is when people flush away wet wipes down the loo. Even the ones marked as flushable don't disintegrate properly like paper, toilet paper. And a recent study showed that wet wipes to be the cause of 93% of sewer blockages. Here's an example of wet wipes removed from a household sewer blockage, showing just how bad it can get. And if these blockages restrict the flow in combined sewers, this can add to the risk of sewage overflow to our rivers. Moving on to the kitchen. The most important message we can take from the kitchen is to avoid pouring fat, oil and grease down the sink, or not cleaning the dishes a little bit to remove the fat, oil and grease from our dishwasher before we get it started. These things can set and congeal in the sewer network to form what we know as fatbergs. Here's the tip of a fatberg, which blocked a sewer in London. One in Liverpool last year was found blocking a main sewer over a length of 85 metres, with an estimated weight of over 90 tonnes. It consisted of congealed fat, oil, grease, and, you've guessed it, wet wipes. Now to the outside of the house and the garden. So we said the priority in homes on combined sewers was to reduce the peak flow of rainfall entering the sewers. It matters for separate sewer systems too, as we can do our bit towards reducing flooding if we can slow the flow back to the rivers. Here are a few ideas based on our work with Love My River Northwich. Here our volunteers are installing water butts at Age UK's Castle Community Centre. If you fit these, you can harvest some of the rainfall to water your garden and save a bit on your metered water bill. Or you could go a step further, as we did, and create an excavated rain garden. Volunteers working hard in the sun last summer. The water butts overflow into pipes, which channel water into the rain garden, which also acts as a soakaway. We planted this one up with native wetland flowers, and now it's doing a pretty good job of diverting all the water from the centre's roof away from the combined drains and providing a habitat for wildlife too. Here's an example from Charles Darwin Primary School in Northwich that's useful if you haven't got a suitable area to create a soakaway. These rain garden planters intercept the flow of water and slow it down as it filters through the layers of compost, sand and gravel in the raised bed before flowing out at the bottom into the combined sewer drains. At Northwich Youth Centre, we used a hybrid design where all the rainfall entering the rain garden planter is diverted away from the combined sewer to a soakaway buried in the lawn nearby. If you have a flat roof, you can do what we've done here at Grove Zone Community Garden and install a green roof system using sedum plants. Again, these soak up the rainwater and release it much more slowly than if it were to run straight off the roofs during a rainstorm. If you have a lot of paved, impermeable surfaces on your property, for instance, if you've removed a lawn to provide extra parking space, consider putting that lawn back, maybe with some ground reinforcing mesh like this, so you can still use it for car parking. It also means that you can wash your car and the soap suds will soak into the ground rather than being a hazard and washing down the drain to the river. In the road outside where you live, it's likely there will be some surface water drains nearby. If it's a separate sewer area, these will probably drain directly to the river, and it's important to protect these from pollution too. You may even come across some of our yellow fish. This is a project we do with local primary schools, and we mark up drains with this yellow fish symbol and put up notices like this with the message, "Only rain down the drain." So there's something everyone can do to protect our rivers. Why is all this so important? Well, the source of our rivers isn't just miles away up in the hills. It's much nearer home. We should think of our homes as vital parts of the river catchment. And it's up to us to manage water responsibly and understand the implications of how we use it. We want and expect our rivers to provide us with many things. We want them to be a healthy environment for wildlife and recreation. We know how much they can benefit our physical and mental well-being. Northwich as a community is built around its rivers, but it's only just started to realise the economic and social benefits of turning to face them rather than turning its back on them. Now the rivers need the same level of attention and individual responsibility as all the key environmental issues of our age, including climate change, loss of biodiversity, and plastic pollution. The solutions require change at global, national, local, and community levels. But our first responsibility has to be to make positive changes in our own homes and in our own lives to make the rivers of Northwich the best they can possibly be. Thank you.